All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory and honor to Yahweh, by Shemi Awashai, by Hashem Rakakwadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of great millstone that rule well, and peace and blessings to the elect. This is another Israelites in history lesson. This is an article that I got. Not exactly sure which website. Let's see here. This is from the EJI.org website. Okay, Equal Justice, the Equal Justice Initiative website, and I was reading a couple other articles. Just going into the different protests and riots, and one article stuck out to me. It was actually this one here. It says, this is what they meant by great again. It's 2018 and America is preparing for a Nazi attack. Now, this is basically going into, let's see, the NFL. Let me just read some of this. Let's see. All right, it says demonstrators participate in a march and rally against white supremacy August 16, 2017 in downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Demonstrations are being held around the world following clashes between white supremacists and counter-protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend. Now, this was last weekend that they had that 1 year anniversary. And you had these different so-called white supremacists, self-proclaimed white supremacists, had these different rallies, and they had this Nazi rally that Sunday. And I was reading this article, and something that stuck out was this. It says, black people experienced a comeback again in the late 1910s when whites, angry at uppity black World War I veterans, initiated 25 anti-black riots in the Red Summer of 1919. We witnessed it in the opposition of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. Okay, so basically, there's a trend in America now, a spirit in America, really, that's bringing out that old hatred of so-called white people against blacks. Okay, and we're seeing that happening all over again. It says in the 1920s, ethno-nationalism signaled the reemergence of the Ku Klux Klan when the white working class became nervous about the economy and started marching through the streets with banners proclaiming a now recycled phrase as evident in a 1921 congressional hearing. The Klan stands for America First. Now, is this not what Trump is speaking? He had this whole America First initiative going on. It says, first in thought, first in affections, and first in the galaxy of nations. Sound familiar? Yet here we are again. To be clear, last year's Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia was not an isolated incident. It was White People Fashion Week. It was a signal to real Americans that they could wear their racism in public because retro old school hate was back in style. So this is what we're seeing in America now, that white supremacist spirit and that anti so-called black spirit. Okay, now there was an event in 1919 when these World War I veterans returned home. They was met with opposition by these white people. Okay, after they came home from the war. All right. Let's see. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm going to hit some key points. It says the Red Summer. All right. Now this is from the Red Summer of 1919. Matter of fact, let me read this. It says African American veterans returned home from World War I, eager to continue to fight for freedom at home. Many black soldiers returned from the war with a newfound determination to bring freedom to their own shores. As W.E.B. Du Bois proclaimed in his 1919 Crisis editorial, returning soldiers, we return from fighting, we return fighting. Before World War I, the NAACP had just 9,000 members nationwide and only 300 in the South. But by the early 1920s, national membership had risen to 100,000, with Southern chapters constituting a slight majority. African Americans have returned home from the war with new and contagious confidence and assertiveness. It says the Red Summer refers to a series of approximately 25 anti-black riots that erupted in major cities throughout the nation in 1919. And the thing, and what's funny about it is it's 2018 now, so we're nearly 100 years removed away from this event that happened back then, and that same spirit is being mingled in America again. Okay? It says including Houston, Texas, East St. Louis, and Chicago, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Omaha, Nebraska, and Lane, Arkansas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Charleston, South Carolina. So that spirit of so-called black versus white is back in the earth again. It's back in America again. But that's the Heavenly Father. That's that spiritual enmity and hatred, all right, that the seed of the serpent, all right, the devil, which is the so-called white race, against the seed of the woman, which is the Israelites, okay, the sons of God. All right, so I'm going to get that account in Genesis, the 3rd chapter. It says, Genesis 3 and 14. And the Lord Yahweh, all right, or it should say Yahweh's powers said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon the belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity, this is the point, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So we're seeing that old enmity, in the earth now. Okay? We're seeing that enmity in America right now between Jacob and Esau. Okay? Because that same spirit had trickled down to Jacob and Esau during the time that they were born in Genesis, the 25th chapter. All right, so this is Genesis 25 and 21. It says, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. So they were fighting each other. That's the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, man. Okay, struggling and fighting together. All right, against each other. It says, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So we're seeing that enmity being played out in the earth. We know that Jacob became the nation of Israel, which are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we know that Esau became the Edomites, which are the so-called white people today. All right? And that same spirit carried over in the future prophecy. Okay? So now when you go to Isaiah, the 19th chapter, the prophet Isaiah prophesied, okay, that the people of America, or this new spiritual Egypt, we're going to be fighting against each other. So this is Isaiah 19 and 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. All right. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing these different Americans, whether it be black, white, mainly the Hispanics, blacks, versus the so-called white people. All right, they're against each other, fighting against each other in every city, man. Okay, and that's the spirit being mingled in America. This is verse 14. The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. All right. And this is verse 17. And in the land of Judah, which represents the Israelites, shall be a terror unto Egypt. All right. Everyone that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself, because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he has determined against it. So you're going to have race wars take place. Okay. Race wars are going to happen and take place in America, man. This is Isaiah, the 13th chapter. All right. Isaiah 13 and 14. It says, and it shall be as the chase roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. So everyone is going to go back to their own people to start fighting one another, man. Okay? And this thing must happen. Okay? This is the spirit that the Lord is pushing out there in America right now. That old hatred, man, the old racism, it never really went away. It was just covered up by political means. But now that root is being dug back in the ground, so to speak, and Trump is planting that seed of racism back in America again. The whole "Make America Great Again," America First spirit. Okay, that's really these prophecies coming to pass. Okay, okay. Right now, this is going back to the serpent and the woman. This is Revelation chapter 12. All right, and I started at 15. It says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he may cause her to be carried away of the flood. And this happened in history. Okay, all right. The so-called white race tried to destroy Jacob going back to 70 A.D., but that didn't happen. All right, it says, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. That's the same serpent. All right, that's Jacob versus Esau, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep their commandments of the heavenly Father, and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. All right, because they're going to go, they're going to come against us as a people, but they're also mainly going to come against us that have this truth. Okay, but that spirit is back in the earth again. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in this article, the Red Summer of 1919. It says, in Elaine, Arkansas, whites attacked a meeting of black sharecroppers who were organizing to demand fairer treatment in the cotton market. After a white person was shot, federal troops were called in to quell the violence. And this same thing could happen again. Okay? Now they have these agents provocateurs that can be set up, and then that's going to cause a whole major riot around the nation, man. It says, but instead they joined white mobs in hunting black residents for several days. More than 200 black men, women, and children were killed. So this is the spirit that's coming back in America again, man. Okay? And I'm not going to be too much longer. I'm going to jump down. It says, let's see. Right? I'm going to read this. It says, after World War I, an estimated 100,000 black veterans moved north, where they still encountered segregation, racism, and inequality. Because it's not our rest, man. You Israelites, you so-called blacks in this country, no matter where you go, you're going to face that hatred from the so-called white man. All right? It says one of the first victims of Red Summer violence in Washington, D.C. was a 22-year-old black veteran named Randall Neal. In Chicago, the presence and inspiration of black veterans, particularly those of the 370th Infantry Regiment, was critical to black Chicagoans forced to defend themselves from white aggression. In the fall of 1919, Dr. George Edmund Haynes completed a report on the cause and scope of Red Summer. He reported that the presence of unpunished lynching contributed to the mob. It's like the persistence of unpunished lynching contributed to the mob mentality among white men and fueled a new commitment to self-defense among black men who had been emboldened by war service. In such a state of public mind, Dr. Haynes wrote, a trivial incident can precipitate a riot. All right, so this spirit is happening in America all over again, man. And it's prophecy, okay? It's prophecy. You know, that spirit is back in the earth again, black versus white. And it's going to happen until Yahweh Shai comes back to destroy America, along with the nuclear missiles, and save the elect and destroy those that are joined unto these so-called white people. And Israel is established in the earth. But with that, I'm going to end it there. This has been Israelites in History, you know, just to shine some light on the spirit of racism and riots in America. Hey, and it could very well be another Red Summer of 1919 Part 2 coming into this year. You know, we're almost at the end of 2018. So that could very well happen again going into 2019. All right. But with that, I'm going to end it there. Until the next time, and say Shalom. All praise are going on and go to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash, the demons to the apostles of Great Millstone. Hope you all were edified. All right. And once again, Shalom to the hopeful elect.